So I hope you had a good time messing around with wiggle, loop out, and time, and learning that arrays can be really annoying. And now let's move on to the next one, which is value at time. And this is one of my favorite expressions because it's just awesome. So for this, I'm actually going to create a new composition. I'll add a new null object, and let's just grab this background here. And okay, let's go out point and trim comp to work area, and let's add a new shape layer, and we can just draw in a star. So star, there's our star. We can hold shift just to center it nicely, and we're gonna make a bunch of these. So let me actually make this smaller because I'm gonna need quite a bit of space. So you can twirl down these settings, go to outer radius, and just shrink this down. We can shrink down inner radius as well, so we have a nice little star there. And remember when I mentioned that wiggle with 0 is actually just going to put a random value and stick it there. So I'll click on the color of the fill, and I'll just put wiggle, comma, bracket, put 2 brackets, we'll go 0, comma, let's do 0.5. And that's just gonna vary this color slightly. So we've gone from an orange to a red. And remember, wiggle uses your original value, so if I say put this to a little purplish color, it's going to wiggle this color and just move it over slightly. So if I go ahead and duplicate this a bunch of times and just move them over, you'll see that they all have kind of different colors. Maybe that 0.5 was a bit low, so let's change this to let's say 2. I'm usually not too sure of how this works. Okay, so there we go. So now we have different stars of different colors. As we make more copies, you'll see that the color changes. So let's grab these guys, and we now want them to follow around this null object. So we already know how to do that. We can hit P, alt click this, and we're going to drag it to the null2, and then we can just add ourselves transform.position. And now as our null moves around, it's going to follow it. So as you can see, it's following around. Let's just switch these off for now. Actually, I'm just going to delete them. Don't really need them. So as I move this null around, you'll see the star follows it. So let me go and add some wiggle to this. So wiggle, let's do 1, 350. So what happens now is it's just going to move around, and since the shape layer is tied to it, it's just going to follow it as well. Let me do 0.5 so that it's a little bit slower. So you'll just see the star kind of moving around and following the null. So let me hit P here to show the position property, and we're going to add a function at the end of this. So we'll do dot value, capital A at, and capital T time, and then we'll add 2 brackets. So now we're saying, look at the value of the null object at this specific time. So if we put 1, it's going to be where the null object is at 1 second. So let's see. It goes, and then right at 1 second. There we go. It's in the center, and then everything else plays out as usual. Let's do here 3. So now it's at the position where the null is going to be at 3 seconds. There we go. 3 seconds. Value there is 3, and so the star is there at 3. Okay, interesting enough, but that's not very cool, is it? I mean, yeah, sure, we can probably trace out the path or something, but that's not entirely interesting. So what we can do inside this brackets here is actually do some more math on top of what we're used to doing. So instead of this 3, let's use what we used in the previous tutorial, and that is time. So we can do time minus 1. So basically, we want this layer from this comp, look at layer null2, its transform position, and that position, the value at time when the time is 1 second back. So that's what the -1 is doing. So what's going to happen is now this layer is going to end up being behind the null object by 1 second. So you can see they're actually following the same path, but the star is actually slightly behind. Actually, not slightly, it's behind by 1 second. So we can change this to say 0.5. And now it's going to be 0.5 of a second behind. And now we can add another one. So Control D. We can press EE to show our expressions. And we'll Oh, that's the wiggle on the color. Okay. And we'll come over here. This is 0.5. So let's do 1 on this one. And then we can duplicate it again. We'll press EE. And you'll see here it's time -1. Let's do 1.5. And make another copy. And we'll just do the same for this one and take it up to 2. All right. So now when we play this out, you'll see they all follow each other and they're all just slightly behind the previous one. So it's kind of getting short on time here. So let me do 1 second here. And that's kind of going to increase the spacing of them, but they're still going to follow the null object. Let's increase this to 550. So you'll see even at 0 seconds, it's kind of evaluated where the null would have been in previous time, like before 0, and that's where these guys are right now. So as you can see, this one is here. So we can expect in 1 second that this layer is going to be here. In 1.5, this one is going to be, in 0.5, this one's going to be here. 1 second, this one will be here. 1.5, this will be here. And at 2 seconds, this will be here. So let's see if that works as planned. So let's go to 0.5. Our blue star is there. Let's go to 1 second. Red star is there. Let's go to 1.5. This guy is here. And let's go to 2 seconds. The last one is there. So it looks like our valueAtTime is working very nicely. So this is pretty useful. Use it on all sorts of things. Remember, the expression can be applied anywhere. So you can do it to rotation, scale, position. You can apply it to an effect, say the color or something. Entirely up to you at this point. Enjoy how valueAtTime works. Something I'd like to point out, interestingly enough, as you'll notice, when we duplicate a layer, everything kind of moves around. And the wiggle expression actually uses the number of layers to determine how the wiggle is going to work, or rather where the number of the layers. So right now it's at number 6. So if we move this null up, you'll see the animation tends to change, and that's kind of their way of ensuring that everything stays completely random. So that's pretty cool. That's how you use valueAtTime. It can be pretty useful creating trails, creating all sorts of things. I guess that's one of the many things that I'll leave to you to try out on your own. So something we can add on top of what we've been doing with valueAtTime is yet another property called index. Now, as I had mentioned before, when you move this around, it changes, and that's based on the index. As you can see here, every layer is numbered 1 to 7. So if I take this and say take the rotation, and then we'll do let's just type in index and see what happens. We are at layer 6, so the rotation is going to be 6. If we move this up to layer 5, it's going to be 5, and so on. So let's make it such that our layers are going to follow the null object as before, but based on the index, it's going to spin faster or slower. So we can do time times index. And since I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are very low numbers, let's multiply this by 10. So let's put this in a bracket and do times 10. So that for this layer, it becomes time. The index is 6, so it's going to be time times 60. So if you go here, you'll see it's currently at 60. So as it plays out, there it is spinning around. As you can see, even 60 is still pretty low. But if we copy this expression, so right click, copy expression only, and then paste it on the other layers. Since this is index 2, it's only gonna go 20 per second and so on. So let's go to actually 1 second. Select all the layers and hit R to show rotation. So you'll see we have here 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And when you go to 2 seconds, they sort of double. So 4, 6, 8, 100, 120, and so on. So as the layers increase, they now spin faster. Looks like we got 2 layers sitting right on top of each other here for some reason. Let's hit P and see what's going on. This is -2, and it's also this one. So let's hit P, and see here it's -2. Oh, I made an extra copy, so let's do here 0.5. And now they're just gonna follow each other and rotate. Maybe that rotation is still not strong enough, so let's hit R here. Show this expression. Let's do 100 so that it's like really over the top. Copy expression only, paste. And now we have this. So let me actually delete this. Do P, and let's just space these out That's 2. Number 3 is there. Number 4 goes there. Number 5 goes there. So since we've done the time on the rotation, you'll see that now this one rotates slower because it's at the top, and this one is a lot faster because it's at the bottom. So if I maybe move this up here, you'll see now this one is the slower one. Then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and yeah, and so on. So that's how you use index. We can also do the same with this calculation that we were doing here. So let me delete all these, add a new null again. Let's add the position keyframe wiggle 1,550, and then we can do P, and you'll recall that it's looking for null 2, so we can just simply change this to null 3, and now there we go. So now it's moving around, and what we can actually do here is do time. It's now doing minus 0.5, so let's do minus index. So for this layer, it's going to do time minus 2. And with every copy we make, it's going to be that many seconds behind. So for this one, we have 13. So 13 is going to be 13 seconds behind the null. And now we just have a whole bunch of things just sort of doing some yucky sort of stuff here. And remember, there's also rotation applying. So that means this number 13 must be rotating like crazy. Yeah, there it is. It's just going nuts. And if we increase the motion blur, you can very easily find the ones spinning fast. Like this one should be pretty low, that's 12. This 13 is off screen, but once it comes in, you'll see it's extremely blurry because it's moving around a lot. So that's value at time. That's using index, using time, and just combining all these things together to create a very complex calculation. And who knows, we could call this our very own particle system. So for the sake of this, I'm going to disable the wiggle in the position and just show you something real quick. Let's move this to 2 seconds. Move the null over here. And now you'll see it goes. And then the next one comes, and the next one comes, and the next one comes. Now remember, this is number 2, so it's 2 seconds behind. So if I put this at 1 second, it means 1, 2. We'll only see this animation start at 3. So if we go, you'll see 3, there it is. No, actually it starts at 2. Yeah, it starts 2 seconds late, not 3 seconds late, my bad. This last one is actually what's going to be at 3. So now everyone comes in one at a time, 1 second apart. You can do some division on the index just to kind of close this gap. So if you took the index and maybe divided the index by 2, you'd kind of close the gap in between them and so on. Anyway, that's pretty awesome. Go ahead and mess around with all this stuff we've learned so far. Go try out value at time, putting time and index inside. Try using index with arrays and variables, and just really mess around and get a feeling of exactly how these controls work. And in the next video, we'll take a look at the last 2 examples, which are if, else, and linear. These are going to be pretty complicated, so make sure that you really understand how these work. Don't be afraid to go back and watch previous videos just to help you understand how it works. For now, go ahead and mess around, and I'll see you in the next video.